Brayan Bello is on track to eventually be an ace for the Boston Red Sox. Why? You'll find out on today's Locked on Red Sox.
You are Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast, and I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed for free. Yes, you heard that correctly. It is 100% free wherever you get your podcasts. So might as well start your day off the right way with Locked on Red Sox. The Locked on Podcast Network is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the show, and happy Tuesday. We are one day closer to opening day, and the Red Sox are coming off a tough loss on Monday during spring training when they played the Tigers and lost 2-1. So not very encouraging, but they have had some good wins so far also in spring training, and this is why we go back to saying it's a good thing that these spring training games don't actually count for anything. I mean, a 2-1 loss in a spring training game, basically an exhibition game when a lot of guys are playing who won't make the major league roster this year. It's good to see them and watch how they grow, see how they might fit into the future of the organization, but no need to sweat the actual result itself too much. And one common theme that we've been talking about a lot this offseason and going into spring training and what it's going to look like moving forward is the starting rotation. Is this pitching rotation up to par with what it needs to be? And there's a man in this rotation who last year showed a lot of glimpses of eventually being a star-studded pitcher in the league. He has definitely a lot of the right tools. He just needs to bring everything together and apply everything that has helped him to develop and grow over the last couple years. And yes, I am talking about Brayan Bello. He was not an ace caliber pitcher last year, and he still is not yet, but he certainly was the most consistent starter in the Red Sox rotation last year, and I only anticipate that things will continue to look bright for him, and he'll be able to continue to grow and develop. Last season, he finished with a .424 earned run average and a record of 12-11. Over 28 games started. He also struck out 132 batters over 157.0 innings pitched. Now, yes, a .424 ERA isn't that bad, but that is a little bit deceiving because his numbers during the day versus his numbers at night are tremendously different. During daytime starts in 2023, Brayan Bello had a .694 earned run average, while allowing 67 hits over a 48 inning span during day games. But in nighttime starts, he had a .239 ERA. So there's a blatant difference there between when he pitches at night and when he pitches during the day. And it's something that certainly needs to be noted because that's a pretty big gap. He looks like a completely different pitcher during his daytime starts last year. And I'm not exactly sure what caused him to have that bad of a performance every time during the daytime starts. But if he wants to be a true ace caliber starter, he's going to be able to pitch during the day and at night effectively. So that's something he needs to work on. Can Andrew Bailey get him to a place where he's changing up his warm-up routine a little bit so that his daytime starts are up to par with where they should be? Because at night, he was pitching lights out a lot of the time. He was completely dominant, looked so confident on the mound, and then when he pitched for a 1 o'clock start, it was such a different result and just all over the place, had no control, and it was almost like he was just a completely different pitcher. So hopefully that's something he can really hone in on in 2024 that he didn't do well in 2023, is figuring out what exactly do we need to change about the pregame routine or what he's doing to make it so that he's just as successful during those daytime starts as he is during his nighttime starts. One thing to note about Bayo, though, is that he has added a slider to his resume. This was something that was a point of emphasis for him during the winter, saying he felt more comfortable with that pitch and feels like he can throw it in any count. So he felt really good about it when he was throwing it during a live batting practice session, and since then he's been able to implement it even more. He said that he plans to use a four-seamer outside the zone a little bit more to elicit chase, which is good. He wants to generate those swings and misses, get hitters to swing at pitches they shouldn't be swinging at. That makes a very successful starting pitcher. And he worked on his lower half and back during the offseason, hoping to not wear those down during the course of the full campaign. He did hit a wall late in 2023, losing his final three starts, including the final two outings in which he allowed 13 runs over 9 innings. That brought his overall record to 12-11 and shedded his ERA from 3.68 to 4.24. So he did show a little bit of tiredness at the end of the season, and that's something he's hoping to avoid going into 2024. So he's adjusting his routine a little bit, making sure that he's not wearing down his back. And that's super important because he needs to be able to last for the full 162 games. One thing, too, is that slider that he's getting better at could be a really good third pitch to go with a sinker and changeup that he has that are both very, very dominant. So if he can nail that slider as that third pitch, that's what you need. Those are the tools you need to be a successful starting pitcher, are three solid pitches that you can go to at any time and feel confident in them to be able to generate more strikeouts, because his strikeout rate was a little low in 2023 as well. That's something I want to see him be able to do more of, is generate strikeouts more frequently, and having that third pitch could be a key factor in helping with that. And something about Brayan Bello that I really like is he is constantly looking for ways in which he can improve. He genuinely cares a lot, I can tell, about the feedback that he gets, wanting to continue to grow as a pitcher. And you can tell with how much work he's putting into that slider this offseason that he's determined to continue to grow in 2024. In the 2023 season, he was able to significantly improve his walk rate compared to 2022, but his Ks per 9 innings dropped from 8.6 in 2022 to 7.6 in 2023. He's developed a reputation as a ground ball pitcher during his 2 seasons in the majors, relying mostly on that sinker and changeup that I was talking about before. So hopefully bringing in that slider could be a game changer for him, and he can produce that strikeout total that's necessary to join that next level tier of starters that are seen as the better starters in the league. I have no doubt that he can do that the more he works on it and he's implementing it, because now during spring training is the time to implement that pitch if he wants to focus on growing and developing more from last year. It's time to start implementing that pitch now during his spring training starts, get more comfortable throwing it to live hitters. One thing to note in 2023, when we mentioned his strikeout rate, that 7.57 strikeouts per 9 innings goes along with 2.58 walks per innings and 1.38 home runs per 9 innings. So what does that all say? That he's not giving up the long ball a lot, so he's not getting hit very hard per se. He's also not walking a lot of guys, so he does generally have his command and control. He just isn't striking out enough guys. Guys are making contact, ground balls a lot, and just generating ways to get guys out without it being by the strikeout. So if he can get that strikeout rate up even more, that to me is him bringing ace caliber stuff. And I've been saying this for a while. I truly believe that Bello, with the right work and the right person around him to help facilitate these changes that he needs to make, he can be the Boston Red Sox ace. And he's well on his way to be doing that. Just needs to work out a couple more things in his pitching regime, and he will get there. I have all the confidence in the world. So I'm so excited to see the way he continues to develop in 2024, and hopefully he can eventually turn into that ace that the Red Sox have been so coveting for so long. Coming up, another player who had a little bit of a breakout in 2023 in a short stint that he was called up has a legitimate chance to make some waves in 2024. So I'm going to be talking about that next. PrizePicks is very exciting. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. I've never been a huge fan of fantasy basketball per se because it's a lot of work every day. You're checking your team. But if you want to win serious money, PrizePicks is the best place for any fantasy sport. I'm a huge fan of fantasy football. Fantasy baseball is also fun. I used to be in a league with some friends there too. So PrizePicks is that #1 fantasy sports app if you're serious about winning big money. PrizePicks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays alive. It's pretty amazing because on other fantasy apps, it does affect you, and it stinks because injuries are out of your control and you can't help if a player isn't playing that day. So why should you have to be penalized for it? So PrizePicks won't penalize you. It's fantastic. Players and stats that you want to select are all available to you easily on the app. If you go into the PrizePicks app, you can pick so many different things. So, for example, this week I'm going to select Steph Curry for more than 29 points and Nikola Jokic for more than 10 rebounds. That's a pretty safe bet to make. Two standout players who absolutely can make those numbers. So that's just one example of a scenario that you can pick, but it wins you serious cash if you are able to hit on those. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 if you download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It really is pretty easy. I highly recommend it. So check out PrizePicks today. Also, check out Locked On Sports today, which is available on YouTube and Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. We have actually launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel to give you the latest in all things sports with all of our talented Locked On hosts. So if you're looking to stay caught up in everything going on in sports, Locked On Sports today absolutely is the place for you and will have you covered. Ceddanne Rafaela is legit. This kid has a serious opportunity to make waves on the Boston Red Sox roster. In the Red Sox 2-1 spring training loss against the Tigers on Monday, he actually went 1 for 3 with a home run. He hit his first home run of spring training. He did also record a strikeout, but that's something that'll come over time. His plate discipline improving when he should be swinging and when he shouldn't be. That's naturally just him being young and not having as much experience, but he did hit his first home run of the spring. The kid can hit for power, absolutely. And last year during the 2023 season, over 83 at bats, he recorded 2 home runs and 20 hits and a 241 batting average. He scored 11 runs and drove in 5 runs and stole 3 bases as well. He had an on base percentage of 281, a slugging of 386, and an OPS of 666. Those are good numbers he was putting up in general, and a lot of people would look at that and say it's average, which it is, but then you compare that to his 2024 spring training numbers. He's taken 13 at bats and recorded a 308 batting average so far. He's making contact with the ball. He's certainly making noise in spring training. And one thing I really like about him, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that he is able to play multiple positions. He can play in the infield and in the outfield, and that could be very useful for a kid who's trying to find his way on the major league roster. Can he earn a spot, and will he? And that is where everything becomes complicated, because it was assumed that going into opening day, the Red Sox outfield would look like Tyler O'Neill, Wilyer Abreu, and Jarren Duran, with Abreu in right, Duran in center, and O'Neill in left. But if Rafaela is playing better than Abreu, which he is right now, he could earn a spot on the opening day roster, in which case then what happens? Do they move Abreu and he competes with Duran for a spot, and then O'Neill has the other outfield spot? Or do they just try to trade Abreu now while his value is higher, because he certainly made a statement when he came up in 2023 too? So do they trade him and try to get a piece back, like a pitching option? Or do they just kind of shift people around and keep everybody and utilize them on an as needed basis? So if Rafaela earns a roster spot, that could throw off the whole thing in general with the outfield now, but you want to put the better players in there. If this kid is really shining and excelling during spring training, there's absolutely no reason the Red Sox shouldn't give him a spot on the opening day roster. One thing to note for him is when it comes to pitch type, he was hitting the fastball the most, 49.9% of the time, making contact with the slider 18.1% of the time, and the curveball 15.6% of the time. A changeup he was only able to hit about 6.5% of the time, so that stands out to me as something that, hey, he could improve in this area, maybe be able to hit the changeup a little bit more effectively. So that's one thing I'm looking at for him heading into 2024, is can he improve in that area and be able to hit that pitch a little bit more, because that'll give him the opportunity to really make more contact and strike out a little bit less. He has a 45 out of 55 rating for raw power, which makes sense because he shows that he can hit home runs. Speed 60 out of 60. He's very fast. And field percentage, he's about a 70 out of 80. He's a gold glove caliber center fielder and just needs to work on his approach to the game a little bit more. And one thing I will say is he does get very excited when he's at the plate. He wants to make contact with anything and everything, which I do understand. It's exciting, but at the same time, you need to know when to be patient, and that's something he still lacks in a little bit, is that patience. When it comes to swinging and missing during the 2023 season, there was a rate at which he was striking out a little bit more, and you could argue that that's something that could easily be adjusted. In 2023, he struck out a total of 31.5% of the time, and his walk to strikeout ratio was only 0.14. He was walking just 4.5% of the time. So his plate discipline does need to improve still, because he isn't as willing to take walks because he wants to swing at everything, which I get because he wants to get that big hit. But at the same time, it takes a very good hitter to be willing to wait for your pitch and make the pitcher work. So I'd love to see him be a little bit more patient at the plate. He makes contact, though, 61.9% of the time at pitches outside the strike zone. And for pitches inside the strike zone, he's making contact 79.6% of the time. So that makes an overall contact percentage of 72.1%, which is very high. So a lot of the time, he's finding a way to make some kind of contact with the ball. It just obviously does result in an out quite a bit too, but he also is sliding them through and getting his hits. So the biggest thing is, how can we continue to grow those numbers in every area and increase his ability to hit multiple pitches. His swing percentage at pitches outside the strike zone is 41.6% compared to 74.8% inside the zone. So he is swinging at a good amount of pitches outside the zone. That 41.6% is the rate at which that's happening. Can he decrease that a little bit? For sure. That's going to come with time and the discipline thing and recognizing, okay, I probably shouldn't be swinging at this pitch right now because it's outside the zone. It's not a great pitch. I probably won't be able to make contact with it. And sometimes it's better to just take a strike and let it go if you still have more opportunity in that at bat. And then you can find a better pitch that's the right one for you. So that selection of when he's swinging and when he's not is the biggest thing to me that screams young kid, a rookie, needs more time to develop and needs more time to figure out how he's going to approach his plate appearances. But other than that, this kid's well on his way. His spring training performances are really making it hard to justify not putting him on the opening day roster. And I'm sure the Red Sox know this. I'm sure they have seen the performances that he's had and they're trying to figure out, what could make sense for him. Does it make sense for them to start him in AAA so he can continue to work a little bit more and really master a lot of his skills before he comes back up to the majors? Or does it make sense to give him that chance off the bat on that opening day roster because he has shown enough that he's capable of having that opportunity? So that's going to be a hard decision for the Red Sox to make. But if he continues to perform the way that he's performing at hitting over 300 in spring training, he certainly will make a great case for the opening day roster. This kid's special, I'm telling you. The Red Sox need to keep him around because he's somebody who could be a serious piece of the franchise moving forward. Speaking of the franchise, what will their record be in 2024? You've heard from a lot of different guests on the show. You've heard from me a little bit on it. I am going to be giving my final 2024 record prediction of the offseason, so you absolutely will not want to miss that. If you're really into sports betting or you're even just first starting to get into it, FanDuel is absolutely the place for you. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. FanDuel's a great way to know you're winning a lot of money and maximizing that opportunity with a lot of different sports and a lot of different bets. So head to FanDuel.com/lockedon today. You know what you also should head to today is Locked On Sports Today, which is available on both YouTube and Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Basically, our network has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's very exciting. If you ever need to get caught up in anything going on in sports without feeling like you're missing anything, this is the way to go. All of our local experts have Locked On and our national shows covering every league will keep you in the loop constantly on what's going on in all sports. So head to Locked On Sports Today. Search for it on Amazon Fire TV or on YouTube. The Boston Red Sox heading into 2024 have a lot of potential, but also a lot of potential to not do so well. And there is definitely some in between. Lots of things have to go perfectly right in order for the Red Sox to be a very competitive team in 2024. I don't think they really had it in mind to be competitive this upcoming season. They had it more so that this season they would focus on rebuilding so they could get ready for next year and beyond. I truly think they see themselves as being contenders in 2025 and past that, and 2024 is used as a year to get the necessary pieces, and that hopefully they'll be willing to be more aggressive next year and set up the current players for more success from that standpoint. But you have to think about and consider everything here. Brayan Bello, I feel like, will have a much better season, and he already had a pretty good season last year. Cutter Crawford hopefully continues to improve. I'm not completely sold on him still within the starting rotation, but hopefully he continues to improve enough to where he can be a key piece moving forward. Lucas Giolito, hopefully Ender Bailey can find something in him that allows him to get back to the type of pitcher that he used to be, that we've been used to seeing. So we need all of those things to happen. Devers needs to be the team leader, really needs to step up, have a really good season on the field, because he's just starting that big contract that the Red Sox gave him. So hopefully he doesn't disappoint them or have them start to regret giving him that contract extension a little bit. He had a good season in 2023. People didn't really give it enough credit, but his numbers that he put up were totally more than appropriate. So hopefully he can continue to put up similar numbers. Trevor Story needs to stay healthy and not be injured and stay on the field, play a lot of games, and get his offensive productivity going. Some people are confident that he will. I wish I was that optimistic. I haven't seen enough from him yet to feel confident that he can definitely turn things around offensively, but that could be huge for this team if he does. Same with Tyler O'Neill. Can he stay healthy? It's another question mark. I trust that Duran and Casas will have really good seasons. I see a lot of potential in both of them, so hopefully they're able to make those strides and continue to be valuable pieces of the team come 2024. So, if you take a lot of different things into consideration, like I said, it's a lot of different if factors. What's going to happen to this Red Sox team? Who is going to be leading the charge? Are they going to be able to have somebody to replace Justin Turner's productivity in the lineup? Are they going to have Trevor Story step up? Are they going to have some of these other guys who are able to show support for guys like Devers and Casas, who are going to probably be the meat of that lineup? Who's going to be in what role, and are they going to be able to do those jobs well? But considering everything right now, if I'm looking at this roster right now and I'm saying, okay, this is a Red Sox team that could reach its ceiling. I'm saying the ceiling is about 88 wins. I'm thinking, they could be in that range if all goes well and everything is the way that they want it to be and they think it's going to be. They could win 88 games for sure, and that may be enough to get them into the playoffs. You never really know. It depends how everybody else is doing in the American League and in the division they're in. It's going to be tough. Lots of good teams fighting for spots. So I'm going to go with the ceiling of 88 wins, but more realistically, if I'm looking at this team at face value, I'm thinking they're an 85 win baseball team. I think they win 85 games in 2024, and it doesn't end up really being enough to make the postseason, but it gives them optimism moving forward for the future. That's what I'm going to predict that happens. They win 85 games during the 2024 season, and they're well set up for the future. And when they do conclude the season, it gives us a good sense from them that they're going to be able to do big things moving forward. And that's all that this fan base needs, is a direction, a sense of confidence from the front office, a sense of transparency from the front office, and a sense of feeling like we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, because the direction that this team is moving in appears to make sense and appears to be working. So that's the key for the Boston Red Sox right now, is can they continue to move in the direction they're trying to move in? Can they develop the young talent that they hope to be a part of the future moving forward? And can they stay healthy? Because injuries were a problem last year. They had a lot of guys who missed a good amount of time because they were on the IL. So injuries and people staying healthy is going to be so key to this team. If guys can stay on the field, if people continue to develop the way the Red Sox are banking on them developing, then absolutely they can surprise a lot of people. But that's a big if. And that if we won't know until the season plays out. But like I always say, as we continue to get closer and closer to opening a day, hang on tight. It'll be here before you know it. Keep the faith, though. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.